The diagnosis. 1. If night is for lovers, then why must it administer starlight through a syringe? Why must the moon press a cold stethoscope to my chest? And you, with your 4 dipsticks, one for each humor, you've been dog-earing pages in the book of symptoms since the night you called me Stammering Pete. You say I've got the wrong color accordion, my umbrellas won't sing, my spleen doesn't float like it should. I've got a cross-eyed heart and too much Leviticus in my brain. My uvula's aslant, I have a salt shaker for a tongue. Someone's been reading dime store novels to my pituitary, and now I'm weepy and semi-mystical and wish nightingales were indigenous. But what does it all mean, I ask you? What do these symptoms portend? Stammering Pete, you say? We have to run more tests. 2. Diagnosis, from the Greek dia, apart, and gignoskein, recognize or know, the flux of everything pulled apart by the prism of the senses, and then each part affixed to a word or words, a pin for every butterfly, the body as text, pain as misreading, the prism of language overlaying that of the senses and sometimes substituting for them, as now. The Greeks had words for 8 types of love, you say, but no single word for love in general, kind of like the Eskimos with snow. Which word would you choose, I ask, and then say, what's that needle for? If you multiply the 8 types of love times the 4 humors, you have 32 possibilities, you say. Once this is understood, we'll know where to apply the leeches more effectively. I look at you standing there in your gold lame lab jacket. What's the Greek word for minnows breaking the surface of a lake beneath my skin? What's the word for xylophone spine, for there's a theremin in my groin? Why do I feel like a dozen characters out of Ovid all at once? Why have the gods turned into glass, and why am I bleeding flowers? The problem could lie with your root metaphors, you say. You know, the ones you live by. They may not be shared by the culture at large. That would explain your disease, not to mention your choice of wardrobe and your ambivalence toward any sort of narrative. But I don't understand. I merely seek the convulsive beauty beneath the facade of appearances, I say. Well, as long as you're strapped to this gurney, we may as well conduct a biopsy or two, you reply, if for nothing else than for old time's sake. And by the way, I'll be using a local anesthetic because it's vital that you maintain consciousness throughout the procedure. Understand? I think so. Good. It might help to close your eyes, but they're already closed. I feel the cold wetness of what I assume is some kind of antiseptic. Okay, you're going to feel a little pinch, you tell me. I do. 3. Someone is reading aloud from the Book of Symptoms. Do you believe night is for lovers, that the wings of desire, gold-veined and diaphanous, can survive machine washing? Or that these death's head moth cocoons your significant other's been leaving under your pillow represent turning points in your relationship? Do you sometimes confuse mode and genre? Do you believe l'amant juste is more often than not a gerund? Do you believe the heart is a spiraling stair, that it has its own elevator music, and that its outlook is primarily medieval? Do your mirrors catch fire? Do you often find yourself narrating something that isn't quite a story? Does your imaginary lover call you Stammering Pete? Do you experience synesthesia whenever the moon goes behind a cloud? Do you believe that in some poems the butterfly's wing tears loose from its pin and beats frantically against the page? Do you believe the final word is ash, and we never hear it spoken, though it's written everywhere? Yes, I say, yes to everything. And do you believe your eyes are still closed, or are you just pretending? Ah, I say, Doc, I think you're on to something.